Why is it that we're still grappling with the issue of national unity and stability to the extent that we're having all kinds of separatist agitations right now, distinguished Senator?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria, once again. I believe that the bottom line for national unity and stability is good governance. It's not the number of laws you have, but how you implement and execute those laws. And when it comes to participation in governance and leadership, let it be that leaders continue to exhibit those tendencies that bring people together, and of course all the time try to be inclusive to ensure that no part of the country or of any community feels left out. This is something that we have not been able to achieve, but I think we are on a march to nationhood, and I believe that with insistence on good governance, we should be able to get there. The agitation for separation in some parts of the country, cry of marginalization and clamor for so many other things that appear to be centrifugal in dimensions, I think is simply showing the frustration that people really have. But I think the answers may not be too far away from having to have in place good governance, and I believe that we can achieve that with the kind of leadership that we have today. Especially, we have a president who has personal qualities and traits that show him to be someone who simply wants to make Nigeria great. And therefore, what we need to do is to have people like him who will continue with this kind of attitude and leadership. And for Nigerians who feel that they should leave the country, I think, let me borrow the words of Hillary Clinton. Together we are stronger, and I believe that no part of the country can go it alone and succeed. I sympathize with people who feel left out. Some are genuine, some are simply political, I'm sorry to say, because there are some who will cry foul even when it is okay, because they require attention, or maybe they have some targets. They want to achieve something and they have not been able to do that, and therefore when they cry foul, maybe they will attract the kind of attention that they require for them to actualize those things. But I believe that we can stabilize our country, we can unite our country, provided we continue to insist on good governance and leaders who will bring us together at all times.
All right, distinguished Senator, thank you.
Just before you comment, I want to get back to Senator Ahmed Lawan. Senator Lawan, your initial thesis was to the effect that, listen, the bottom line is that we need good governance, and not just a plenitude of laws.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday, one of our guests did say, according to him, that's Chris Ngwodo, speaking to us from Jos, that part of what we have seen is the consequences of the collapse of the elite consensus on how to govern Nigeria. What we saw at the end of the Civil War, which also coincided with the oil boom. When you speak of saying, look, let's have good governance, the managers of the political economy, do we have a sense of a vision of where we want Nigeria to be? I'm asking this question again by also recalling a point I made by way of a question to our guest on Monday or Tuesday. 40 years ago, distinguished Senator, did you know where Dubai was? So what is our vision to say, take the nation from point A to point B by way of good governance, other than laws? We find that in Chapter 2, everybody parrots it, but at the end of the day, we are having all kinds of agitations and threats to our peace and stability. Your thoughts?
Well, thank you very much. Before I respond to that question, let me respond to the initial submission by our comrade brother from Lagos. I think the issue is not a constitutional issue. Our constitution possibly is one of the thickest, biggest in the world. So we have abundance of legislation But I think I will maintain my position that it is still about the leadership. The former permanent secretary here, my brother Bruce, told us that we divided from 12, actually from 3 regions, up to 36 states, and 774 local governments. And people are still asking for more states, and if you will have 1,000 states, there will still be agitation for more states and local governments. So the issue is not about those structures. We have a constitution. If we feel any part of the constitution is not serving the purpose of our development, our national unity and stability, we should be able to have the courage to amend those sections. And it's going to be a continuous one because the society is dynamic. So I think it's not about creating a new constitution, because that is just an opinion. I believe that we have so many people in Nigeria who could give us the kind of leadership that Nigeria requires. Coming to your question, Dubai 40 years ago was simply maybe a fishing village.
Sure.
The first time I went to Dubai was in year 2000. And it was still a desert city, sort of. Today, Dubai is one of the best cities in the world. Why? I think they have been able to provide good leadership in that place. They have been able to provide stability. And of course, they have constituted that part of the world into a safe investment environment. And therefore, people move in there with their resources and contribute in building other people's country. Because Dubai does not rely on its own resources alone. Everybody feels his resources or investments are safe. That is the kind of thing we need. And we don't lack the people to do that. But what we lack is our ability to see through ethnicity, see through religion, and unfortunately, it boils down to the issue of how much someone is involved in a system. I believe that some people agitate genuinely because they are left out. And we must admit, we have not been able to achieve integration. By the time you say you want to integrate, it means you know you are diverse. It's an admission that we have diversity, that we must be able to bring people together, break down those hurdles of ethnicity. Someone should feel safe wherever he is in the country. Someone should not feel sidelined or marginalized because of his religion. And we had, in the 60s, we had leaders who showed those tendencies to accommodate everyone. In northern Nigeria, for example, northern Nigeria was perhaps more diverse at that time than any part of the country. But we had leaders at that time in the 60s who tried to bring the diverse people of northern Nigeria together. We cannot say the same thing today. We are grappling with so many ethnic or even religious issues, and I believe that what we need to do today is to continue to work on the constitution that we have. If we feel there's anything there that is a deficit, we should continue to look for those kind of leaders that we can trust to give us the kind of direction, to bring everybody together and make Nigerians put in their best. Because it's for you to be trusted as a leader first. Okay, it's when you have the trust in your leader that he's not going to cheat you, that he's not going to sideline you or marginalize you based on any of these tendencies, then you can put in your best. Because even if you are suffering, if you have a leader you believe in, you can accommodate and live with that suffering and also contribute. So I believe that it still boils down to the fact that we need to have inclusivity in governance.
Okay, let me stay with you, because Ambassador Lolo-Bulus, talked about the complexity and sophistication of our constitution, which also, you confirmed. And he raised the question of, implementing the, the contents of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And sometime on this program, I think that was when we had a former Director General of the NTA. He raised the issue of implementing both the letter and the spirit of the Constitution, which we're not doing. We only concentrate on the spirit of the, on the letter of the Constitution, rather than the spirit. Now, with regards to the provisions of the Constitution, federalism, what is the National Assembly doing with regards to that? Because you've talked about leadership.
The National Assembly legislates. There's an arm of government that is supposed to govern the administration.
You've just carried out an amendment.
You see, in the Constitution, for example, when you go to Section 15, that gives all Nigerians that protection, they can stay anywhere as citizens, regardless of where their original inhabitants habitats are or whatever. And I also believe that Section 14, 3 and 4 of the Constitution protects Nigerians, that you don't suffer any neglect because of who you are, the language you speak, the religion you hold, or even the political party you belong to. These are there in the Constitution, but people still suffer.
That's right. What about the provision of the separation of powers, the devolution of powers in the Constitution, which has been a major cry, or reason for the agitation?
Yeah, separation of powers, of course, that is something else. I think nobody is agitating because of separation of powers. Separation of powers is giving the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary their various roles, and of course everybody protecting his environment. But I think what some people are agitating for is, first, they feel they're not getting the kind of resources from the center as part and parcel of that country. Some feel, no, we should subdivide the country. Some are even saying, let's break the entire country into pieces. And to me, none is a solution.
All right, Senator, thank you very much. We'll come back. As we said, we are on the home stretch. We've got just a few minutes left. Senator Ahmed Lawan, one point that we've had since Monday when we had this conversation has to do with what some have described as the disproportionate reward for competitive politics, and the fact that politics, I'm not saying politicians, but of course politicians practice politics. The politics does not appear to have been beneficial to the entity called Nigeria and the citizens and residents to help foster much more greatly national unity and stability. The political class has been up for blame for all of this. Is there a need for an introspection to say, look, what can we do better, rather than I, myself, and me?
Yeah, to some extent, I will agree with you, but let me say that we don't share in the National Assembly. My sister even, we don't share in the National Assembly. You see, the present administration has this program, and I think it's anchored by the Ministry of Information and National Orientation. Change begins with me. I think the change should begin with the leaders of Nigeria at all strata of government. Those of us at the federal level, from the president to the FCT, all the ministers, National Assembly members, and at the states, the governors and state assembly members, local government chairmen. I think the change is supposed to start with us leaders. From the clips there, Nigerians are almost unanimous. They don't care what politicians say. What they want is for leaders to provide leadership for them. They want very convenient and clement environment for them to operate and carry out their day-to-day lives. So what we need to do is for us leaders to change for the better. I still insist that if we have good governance, most of the issues being clamored about will simply disappear. Even those who are agitating, especially those who are not genuine, because majority are not genuine, would not find the space to clamor, because people would have been satisfied. Those masses, or the people that people claim they are agitating for, will simply not acknowledge them. So I believe that this change begins with me should be maybe tailored towards change beginning with leaders.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, distinguished Senator.